I have to admit, I have a soft spot for the Watch Dogs franchise. I mean, the first one wasn't anything special, sure, but I think the second game was an exceptional sequel that delivered on a lot of fronts. So I've been pretty hopeful about Legion for a while. Originally it was supposed to release earlier this year, but Ubisoft pushed it back after Ghost Recon Breakpoint bombed. So the question is it worth the wait? I'm Luke, and this is my review of Watch Dogs Legion for GameLuster. Watch Dogs Legion takes place in foggy old London town. After DedSec are framed for a string of devastating bomb attacks across the capital of England, a private security force named Albion become the main peacekeepers of the city, and a few months later DedSec resurfaces with the intention of exposing the truth behind the bombings. So let's get straight into Legion's big selling point. You can recruit anyone. Random civilians you see on the streets can be convinced to join the newly reborn DedSec. Professional hitmen, beekeepers, or an editor-in-chief that doesn't think Double Dash is the best Mario Kart are some of the people you can recruit. And some of these characters come with unique perks, such as being able to target an enemy with a swarm of bees, among many other things that set them apart. As such, these skills tend to fit different playstyles according to what you think you'll need for an upcoming mission. You want to stay hidden? Perhaps a hacker that can remotely control a range of electronic devices from much further than the average operator could be the best way. Or if you think things are going to get loud, a hitman's special arsenal and his gun kata skills could hold their own in a shootout. But they're not your only options. Like I said, almost everyone is recruitable. Even employees of Albion or Clan Kelly gang members can be convinced to join DedSec. And these recruits provide another way to infiltrate enemy strongholds. They can don their uniforms and walk straight through the front door, Agent 47 style. It's not quite that easy though, as patrolling guards and drones might still see through your disguise if they get too close, so you might need to crack some more skulls just to avoid any problems. The point is that Legion continues Watch Dogs 2's trend of providing plenty of options when it comes to how you approach each mission. Stealth, hacking, or straight shootouts. It's all up to you and the operatives you recruit. While this recruit everyone system provides plenty of fun choices, it just falls short of greatness. The main issue I have is that there's no real progression to it. What you see is ultimately what you get. There's no growth to these characters. If you've played games like XCOM, then the reason players tended to bond with their characters is because of how they grow. Those lowly recruits gain promotions and new abilities with every successful kill during a mission. Legion doesn't really present a similar system, so if someone dies in the field, then honestly you can quite easily replace them. Don't get me wrong, it kind of stings to lose a good operative, sure. However, knowing that I can easily replace them with someone who also has pretty much the exact same skill set lessens the blow of losing a good operative.
Jesus, I almost don't want to ask, but did they just...
Sadly, that operative has gone on to the big safe house in the sky.
It's still a great system that creates a sense of persistence in randomization. Hell, I've even encountered characters that were previously a part of DedSec before I retired them, with the option to bring them back if I wanted to. And Legion also tracks characters that have had encounters with your operatives before. Sometimes it's characters that are connected to your operatives like family members, but other times it can be enemies that have suffered injuries at the hands of a DedSec operative in the past. All of this kind of makes me wish Legion implemented some kind of Shadow of Mordor inspired nemesis system that made these enemies a bigger presence in your ongoing escapades. However, in the end, it just doesn't feel like there's much difference in the characters. There are some things like elderly recruits, for example, they move slower and they can't really crouch behind cover, and some characters have different ways of fighting in hand-to-hand combat, but they all still just feel like they function the same way. And that's perhaps the biggest issue I have with the Recruit Anyone system overall. It's a great concept, but I feel that the operatives you recruit just truly lack any sense of individuality. Every character can just boil down to a person with a neat bonus trick or two, and I never really felt like any mission benefited from using a specific character. As for the gameplay itself, it's a lot like Watch Dogs 2. Movement and climbing feel pretty similar, your operatives can sprint, and they have some decent parkouring skills for travelling around London. And stealth is pretty much what you'd expect from a Ubisoft game. Enemies who see you will slowly detect you. In fact, most enemies will actually holster their weapon and trade fists with you if they detect you. Melee combat itself is pretty basic. You can punch, guard break, and dodge to get the upper hand. And defeating enemies in hand-to-hand combat won't actually cause an alarm as long as no one else sees you. But Legion is a hacking game in the end, and like Watch Dogs 2, DedSec operatives have a variety of hacks to help them accomplish their goals. Most of them are probably familiar to you if you've played previous entries into the franchise. Electrical junctions and pipes can be armed to explode if an enemy walks close enough to them. Drones and nearby cameras can be hacked to get a better view of the area, to gather intel on the locations of enemies or the key items you're looking for. This time around though, the RC car has been swapped for a spider bot, a small robot that can navigate vents and other tight spots to help you potentially sneak into buildings and hack stuff without actually having your operative even enter the building. Like its predecessor, Legion's biggest strength is the freedom of how you can approach each mission. Stealth, guns blazing, disguised, or using gadgets to get inside without actually getting inside. Still, despite its ambitious systems, Legion still suffers from the same recurring issues. Like Watch Dogs 2, I still don't understand the purpose of including non-lethal options in combat, because there's no real difference in the overall gameplay regardless of how you choose to dispatch your enemies. I could just straight up murder everyone that gets in my way and it'll change nothing. There's even a part in the story where it gives you a choice, however, said choice has no influence over the rest of the game at all as far as I can tell. Legion is a game about building a revolution to take on an authoritarian system, and it would have been really interesting if your use of violent or non-violent methods had an influence on the way the rest of London perceives you. Even if it was just something as simple as perhaps Albion increasing their presence in London as a response to the use of lethal tactics, would go a long way to influencing the player's behaviour in game. And the story itself just struggles with what feels like generic ideas. The major antagonists aren't really all that fleshed out, so I didn't have any kind of feelings towards them. On occasion, the story started toying with some almost Black Mirror-esque ideas about technology going too far, but yet it felt really hesitant to actually commit to addressing them. The best pieces of writing in this game, honestly, are tucked away in audio files and similar collectibles. One example that you might have already seen on Twitter is a piece that scarily addresses how fascism seems to be resurfacing in today's society, and even highlights some genuine examples of this in the real world as we know it. Legion is also riddled with bugs. For a game that got a major delay, it's frustrating to still encounter so many technical issues. I was playing on a standard PS4 and Legion crashed multiple times on me, usually during gameplay and causing me to lose progress, which was deeply frustrating, especially with its somewhat hefty initial load times. I also found myself completely locked out of a side quest involving the Bare Knuckle League. There's some graffiti that serves as an activation point for it, but the game would never let me do so. No matter how many times I went to it, I could never activate or interact with it in any way. So what's my final verdict? Despite its technical issues, I did actually enjoy my time with Legion, and I'm curious about the upcoming Watch Dogs Online component that will launch sometime next month. And I still love Watch Dogs' hacking gimmick and its open-ended approach to how you complete missions. The Recruit Everyone system really brings some fresh ideas to the table, but the lack of progression or options to improve your recruits over time lets it down. And add on to this the myriad of technical issues and bugs, Legion feels like what could have been one of the year's standout releases, but instead it just feels short of being that.